D-Mace, Fingan, and Donick 102.5. The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you in an empty Bridgestone Arena.
That it is.
Normally, we come to you before the Predators game,
Mhm.
but the Predators played a 1 p.m. game today against the Detroit Red Wings, and we decided to stick around until 6 o'clock. We appreciate Bridgestone Arena keeping the lights on for us. But
Yeah.
I am glad to be back.
We are glad to have you back.
I feel like I've been gone for so long. It was only a week. My beautiful daughter is now 10 days old. She's doing all of the things that a 10-day-old baby should do. She's eating, she's pooping, she's not sleeping at night, but it's a blessing. And Arlo is a fabulous big brother already incredibly affectionate
That's
with
good.
his little sister. But I am glad to be back in the saddle. It feels weird being on the sideline, even for a week. But we will have you completely covered until 6 o'clock tonight. Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join us at the top of the hour. He was at the NFL Combine all of last week. We want the hot gossip. Teron Davenport, he'll provide it for us. But Derek,
Yes.
you know a lot about me, but I don't know if you know this. Do you know what my favorite Spike Lee joint is?
Oh, man. Nah, I really don't.
Do the right thing. And that's precisely what I hope Barry Trotz will do before the NHL trade deadline on Friday afternoon. The Predators lose 4-2 to the Detroit Red Wings here at Bridgestone Arena. Earlier this afternoon, they are 1-1-1 since returning from the Olympic break. And this is a critical week for the Nashville Predators. It did not get off to a great start, as I just mentioned. They lost 4-2 today at home. But the NHL trade deadline looms. I believe it's 3 p.m. Central on Friday. So right when we come on the air on Friday, that is the NHL trade deadline. And I know that the Predators are still in the playoff mix.
Mm-hmm.
They are 3 points out of a playoff spot despite the loss to the Red Wings. That could increase to as much as 5, depending on the outcome of the Seattle Kraken's game later tonight at home against the Carolina Hurricanes. But I think it's evident that the Predators need to do what's best for the long term of this organization, and that is to sell at the trade deadline. And I know what you're going to say, Derek. I know what our listeners are going to say. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I know what y'all are going to say. The Predators have worked really hard to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
They've picked themselves up. They've dusted themselves off. They were in a terrible spot the week of Thanksgiving. We thought it was going to be another lost season for these Predators. But they battled back, and now they're in the thick of the playoff race. But they're not in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They woke up this morning with a 26.5% chance of making the playoffs per Sport Logic. That number is probably going to go down overnight. And I know that it may be hard to comprehend the idea that Barry Trotz could go in that dressing room and say, guys, you've worked your asses off for the past 2-3 months to get back in this race. I'm sorry, but here goes Michael Bunting, and here goes Eric Halla, and here goes Ryan O'Reilly. I know that may be difficult for people to comprehend, but it's the right thing to do. That is the one message I have for Barry Trotz, Derek Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Think with your head and not with your heart. Look at this team for what it is. A scrappy team, but an average team.
Mm-hmm.
That if, and that's the operative word, if the Predators make the playoffs, what are the chances that they pull off an upset in the first round? I would say fairly minuscule. So I implore Barry Trotz. I don't think I have to tell him this. I think he's doing it on his own. He's a smart guy. Think with your head and not with your heart.
Okay. I think we've heard Barry say plenty of times no matter what, he's going to do what's best for the organization, regardless of who the player is, coach, no matter what. He's going to do what's first best for the organization. Now, what's best for the organization may be moving on from some of these guys and trying to get something for them. But what I would ask you is, what are you looking for in return? Because are you looking for draft picks that are ultimately going to take years to develop? Are you looking for other players? Are you looking to reduce your salary cap? In essence, salary dump to somebody else. What are you trying to accomplish? Because if you're trying to build this team, well, you're thinking more so this is an investment,
Mhm.
and it may not pay off for the next 4 or 5 years. You know.
I hear what you're saying, and I think it's a bit more nuanced
Hmm.
than, well, if you trade Eric Halla, for example,
Hmm.
what are you going to get for him? Is it worth trading him for a fourth round draft pick? To me, it's less about the return. I mean, you want to get assets back. I'm not
Hmm.
giving these players away if
Okay.
I'm Barry Trotz. I'm not just giving them away to make a move. They have to be smart. They have to be moves and potential returns that can help the organization in the long run. But for me, it's more about an acknowledgement from the organization that where they are right now isn't going to get better significantly unless they take a step back. I wrote a headline nearly 4 years ago, and I still use this line to this day. It's one of the few times I've been creative in my life. The Predators will not get better until they allow themselves to get worse. And if the Predators trade, let's say again, Michael Bunting, Eric Halla, Michael McCarron, maybe somebody blows their doors off on Ryan O'Reilly. If they were to make those moves, it would be an acknowledgement from Barry Trotz on his way out that this team has hit the wall. If we just keep doing what we're doing, we're going to be a team that may or may not be in the playoff mix every year and will probably lose in the first round. I keep in mind, this is a franchise that has not won a playoff series in 8 years. 8 years. The Stanley Cup final run that we reminisce so much about, that was nearly a decade ago, Derek.
I get. Okay. Go. You're saying, what about the Stamkos,
Mm-hmm.
the Marshall Shea, the Brady Shea,
Yeah.
guys like that are still here, Forsberg, all those guys that are here. You're talking about trading guys that sort of are not the core guys. So even if you trade those guys away, the core guys are still there. So so if you're trying to get worse before you can get better, you're going to have to get rid of some of those guys. You
Well,
can't get worse to get better if you're keeping your core guy. If nobody makes a good enough deal for O'Reilly, you keep Stamkos and all those guys.
mm-hmm.
The core of the team, the core of the team is still there.
I understand that. And Roman Yossi and Philip Forsberg and UC Soros have no movement clauses in their contracts. And maybe they decide, if the Predators do what I am imploring them to do, maybe they decide, hey, in the case of Roman Yossi, I only have so many years left. I want to win the Stanley Cup. It probably won't happen here. Maybe I have to go somewhere else. That's a possibility, I suppose. Randy on our text line says, let's face it, the Preds playoff hopes don't look any better than last season, maybe next season. Simply put, no excuses. Love my Preds. Mike in Lebanon says, I'm tired of the Preds sitting on talent in the minors. The current team is not winning a championship, so bring up the young guys and let them finish the season. Also, it's vital that the new GM is an outsider and not currently connected to the Predators. Joey from Gallatin says, I have a feeling we will tear it down, or he, meaning Barry Trotz, will tear it down and get out of Dodge.
Here is the mistake I or the miscalculation
Mm-hmm.
that I think the organization did. What you want them to do, they should have done 2 years ago.
Yes.
But instead, they chose to go the route of we can still contend.
Yes.
We can turn this team around.
Yep.
And now it's almost you're in the middle of the ocean. It's like we can't turn back now. We just got to keep rowing.
That's fair. There are limitations to what the Predators can do. Roman Yossi, Philip Forsberg, UC Saros, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, they all have no movement clauses in their contracts. So if they don't want to go anywhere, they don't have to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2023, when the Predators sold off Matthias Ekholm and Mikhail Granlund and Nino Niederreiter and Tanner Jeannot, none of those players, I believe, had any trade protection. So David Poile had every right to trade those players, and I think that was the right thing to do. I commended David Poile for looking in the mirror ahead of the 2023 NHL trade deadline and making those decisions. And I'm hoping that Barry Trotz will do the same. This is something we will continue to discuss over the course of the week. We'll see if the Predators make any deals. But again, do the right thing, Barry Trotz. Do the right thing. This team should be commended for getting back in the playoff race when all hope looked lost the week of Thanksgiving. But there is little chance, I believe, that this team, if it makes the playoffs, again, if, I think there's little chance that this team does anything of significance. Are you looking at Spike Lee movies now?
Yeah, but I'm listening to you like you just give them no chance at all. Like you just like they're done. That's all. I'm just, but this. Listen, I understand what you're saying, but to me, it's going to be difficult to do that because unlike last time, you got some guys that could, garner, something good in the trade. Those guys are under no trade clause. And if they don't want to be moved, they don't have to be moved.
And we will talk about this more over the course of the week. Again, the NHL trade deadline is on Friday afternoon because there are moves the Predators can make, one in particular that could help them significantly. And we will discuss that as the week continues. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. We'll take your thoughts on the Predators' 4-2 loss to Detroit, as well as the upcoming NHL trade deadline this Friday. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join the program. He spent all last week at the NFL Combine. I want the hot goss, so we will get it from Teron Davenport coming up next. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. If you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or, frankly, nothing at all. But Law Tigers fights to get you the compensation you deserve, and they don't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you and what it means to you. So they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Houston, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. And don't forget, go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predators Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team. I saw that thing this weekend, and it looks fabulous. And you're going to look great rolling down Broadway once the Preds win a Stanley Cup. So it's courtesy of Law Tigers in Music City, Indiana. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. The NFL Combine is over, and to talk about all of that and more, let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, Teron Davenport, who is fueled by Parman Energy. Visit ParmanEnergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution. Hi, T.
Gentlemen, how's it going?
It's going well.
Well,
Always a pleasure to talk to you, Teron. So you were at the NFL Combine last week, and you know we and all of our listeners love hot gossip. So what was the most interesting thing you heard about the Titans at the Combine?
Most interesting thing would have to be the Jeremiyah Love situation. And I think you look at Mike Bergonzi getting up there, running back position has value, especially when it's a 3-down back and someone that could score for you. So you got that. And then you look at, Robert Saleh bringing up Christian McCaffrey. So the big talk is the Titans at 4, but here's the thing, that there are some teams that could possibly want to jump up past Washington and give the Titans an offer that they might take to pass on Love and go with, some other guys. So look at teams like the Saints, the Chiefs as possibilities to jump up.
So you mentioned Jeremiyah Love. That was going to be my next question. How would you handicap the Titans' chances of selecting Love at number 4 overall? And when you look at running backs taken with a top 5 pick in recent history, I should say, I would call it a mixed bag. You've got Saquon Barkley, but you also have Trent Richardson, for instance. So what do you make of the idea of drafting a running back with a top 5 pick? Because that doesn't really happen that much anymore.
Yeah, you conveniently skip Ezekiel Elliott. You can't forget him, and
That
I
is
would
true.
say he was a success. So
Yes.
it could balance out. I think that there's value there, and when you have a guy that could hit all 3 bases, right, play on 3 downs, he give you pass pro, he give you pass catching as well as running the ball. I think the value is there, and you're looking at it from drafting a playmaker perspective as opposed to just a particular running back.
Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles, I've learned over the past week, is a physical freak. He showed out at the combine. Should we put him on the short list of potential Titan selections at number 4 based on his performance at the combine?
Well, I think here's the thing: the performance at the combine matches the film. And if you watch him on film, you knew he was going to be super explosive. That's why I made sure I was right over top of the vertical when he went up and, he hit that 40 on there. And then the 11-4 in the broad jump. Just amazing. Matter of fact, he hit that 11-4, and I thought he was done because he took his shoes off, put his sweats on, and walked over to the other side, but then ended up, running a blistering 40.
Now, TD, which one of these other guys impressed you as far as wideouts out there at the combine? Because there are a lot of fast times, but how can you match that fast time with the productivity and guys that you saw that may have either surprised you or overperformed?
Yeah, well, you're going to have those times where those guys, they run those fast 40s, and you go back and you say, wait a minute, I didn't see that on film. Some guys run fast, other guys play fast, some guys do both. So that's really that with the speed. I think Zach Branch showed you that, Deion Burks as well. I mean, those are 2 guys that really stood out, that you knew were going to run fast. You knew that they are more than just that. So you have that, but one guy that stood out to me was Jacoby Lane, and to be his size, the way he was able to get around the cone, running that curl route, he threw that inside shoulder back, the elbow, and turn it and drove on the ball. He caught it well. He tracked it over his shoulder really well. I love the way he faded to the football. I mean, he was probably, to me, the most impressive receiver.
Now, as far as defensive backs, because the Titans will be looking to add depth, either a number 1 corner or just depth through free agency, how did the cornerbacks look?
Yeah, a lot of those guys were really quick. I like Malik Mustafa. I thought he was, really smooth, and I thought he was a guy that was able to, work through the breaks and everything. He ran well in the 4.4 range, so I always do that. I bring up the safety from a couple years ago, but no, Malik Muhammad from Texas. He's a guy that is physical too. But I mean, I like how he was in the box drill, the W. He did all those really well, broke on the ball and everything.
Now, were there enough quarterbacks? Because I think ultimately this could affect what the Titans or how the Titans move within the draft. Were there any quarterbacks that drummed up some buzz that people started to look at them as more first rounders than second or third rounders?
No, not really. I mean, you got obviously Mendoza and Ty Simpson, but that's really the whole thing. Who's number 3? I thought Drew Aller threw the ball really well, but Carson Beck, just that deep ball he threw. So I think he might have the inside track, but I'm not saying into the first round. You're talking like mid to late second at the highest.
Now, let's go to free agency. What do you think the Titans will address the defensive back situation? Because, I mean, the likelihood of them keeping L'Jarius Sneed is slim. I would be surprised if they did, considering the contract, the health, and then things that are off the field. But how do you think they attack that during free agency?
Yeah, I think they could double down, quite frankly. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that because, I mean, you figure right now you got Marcus Harris, but he's going to be an outstanding nickel. He could bump to the outside, but ideally you want him at nickel. And Michael Robinson is coming back, but, as you mentioned, Snead is probably gone. So you need to add to that secondary immediately. So that's it.
Mm-hmm. Now, how much are they pushing to keep some of these guys that they have that are free agencies? Obviously, Chig would be at the head of that list, but even guys they potentially would have to sign the deals Peter Skoronski a year earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Skoronski is going to get extended at some point. Mike Pogostin kind of alluded to that in his presser, and I've heard some things along those lines. But I think one guy that you have to look at is by releasing Cushenberry, because you don't want to have to go back and now, oh shoot, 1/3 of the line has to be new. There's no continuity there. So to me, and just going by what I heard, Zeitler is a guy that is absolutely a candidate to come back.
Teron Davenport is with us on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Teron, I think since the last time we spoke to you, the Titans made the trade of Jermaine Johnson for T'Vondre Sweat. How much of that trade of T'Vondre Sweat was scheme fit, and how much of it was culture fit?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture. I think, but I think it was more scheme and really above all else, I think it was Robert Saleh getting his guy. And I mean, that's pretty much what you saw with Jermaine Johnson. He had 7.5 sacks. And I mean, he's a first-round talent, so it's an opportunity to add to that edge group, which the rotation is very thin right now. So, yeah, I mean, that was more to me along those lines.
What do you expect the Titans to do with Calvin Ridley?
That's a good question, because when I asked Brian Dable how much he'd like to work with him, he said, well, I don't have control of those decisions, but I think he does have influence. And if you look, the last time they were together at Alabama, that was the season that Ridley got drafted off of, in addition to the previous one. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. And then also you got to look at it, why create an even bigger need already have? And that's, if you release Ridley, now you got to go out and get probably 2 receivers. So I would see them keeping him, maybe working something out, but more than likely he's going to be here.
Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. He joins us every Monday, and he is fueled by Parman Energy. Visit parmanenergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution. TD, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
All right, appreciate you. Go Mets.
Teron Davenport on the program. The Calvin Ridley situation is interesting to me, Derek, and we've talked about this before. You have mixed feelings about Calvin Ridley. The way I see it, Calvin Ridley, if we're going to mix local professional sports teams here, Calvin Ridley reminds me of Matt Duchene when Matt Duchene was a member of the Nashville Predators. When Matt Duchene was here, he was a top-line center, top-line winger sometimes. But I always thought that Matt Duchene was miscast as a top-of-the-lineup player in Nashville. Good player. Not the guy I want leading the charge offensively. And that's how I sort of feel about Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is certainly the most experienced and, at the moment, best wide receiver on the Titans roster. We'll see with Chimdike and Alec Manor and others. But he's not a true number one wide receiver in the NFL. He's a number one wide receiver on this team.
Yes.
But he's not a true number one wide receiver when you compare him to other number one wide receivers in the NFL. But as Teron just said, do you create another hole by releasing Calvin Ridley? You're probably not going to get a better wide receiver in free agent. Calvin Ridley, maybe you get an equivalent receiver. I don't know if you get a significantly better one, but I do wonder if it's sort of the path of least resistance. Yeah, maybe we don't want Calvin Ridley, but we may not have a choice but to keep him so that our wide receiver room isn't completely bereft of experience.
I had an analogy here, but I'm not gonna say it
because Come on.
It would be, I think, offensive to Calvin. But I understand what you're saying. Listen, he's He's what you have to do with him because now he's shown us who he is. Calvin Ridley is, if he stays healthy, completely healthy, he's a 1250, yards, maybe 7, 8 touchdowns and 80 receptions, somewhere around there. That's who he is. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have that as your number one, you have to be solid to really good at other areas. Your slot guy has to be one of the best. Your other guy has to be solid. Your X, he has to be solid. Your tight ends, they have to be good, because now it's about the whole as opposed to the sum. It's not about that. It's not about Calvin Ridley now being the number one. It's about the New England Patriots and Peyton and Tom Brady having really no number ones. But we got a bunch of guys that know how to play football and will go out there and do whatever they need to do. They're consistent. We can rely on them. Tom only had a number one a few times. Randy Moss, that was it. Like, if you want to talk about Hall of Fame number, Randy Moss. And he produced numbers with. He had Gronk, who's going to be a Hall of Fame, but I'm talking about wideouts. He never had those guys that people looked at and said, oh, they are the elite. But he had some really good players that all worked together, and they were available for him. And they were reliable. That's what the Titans need around Calvin Ridley. Your offense can't just focus on him. You got to have guys that are solid, dependable, available, that are going to make the catches, because what happens now, you don't know who to cover. You got to play everything honest. That's why New England would beat so many people, because you didn't know who Tom was throwing it to.
I was out last week, obviously, and during my week off, the Tennessee Titans traded Tavondre Sweat to the New York Jets for Jermaine Johnson. Now that you've had a few days to think about it, you were skeptical of this trade. Your immediate reaction, you expressed some skepticism, because if I heard you correctly, although Jermaine Johnson probably helps you more now, and of course he has the history with Robert Saleh, you are trading away more potential in Tavondre Sweat. Now that you've had a few days to think about it, where are you on this trade?
I think I'm still on the side of you traded a guy that was ascending for a guy that got you 7 sacks 2 years ago prior to a injury. You think and I know it's 2 years removed, and typically that second year you're now you can go, but you're hedging your bets on this guy being, an 8 to 10 sack guy, or you getting him because he knows the defense. And 7 sacks to you, like I said before, I don't need a 15, 20 sack guy. I had one with Bosa when he wasn't in the defense. Our defense still played well. We had a bunch of guys running around knowing what to do, fast and physical, all gas, no break. So I get that. So was it scheme, or was it, you didn't think he would fit with the culture? That would tend to tell me that a little bit I'm like TD, a little bit, I believe, was he maybe didn't fit what they were looking at, because they did it with Brownlee 4 months earlier or 5 months earlier. And not only is it that, but we're also changing defense, complete whole new defense. And it may be more of the bigger, you are not the fit for what we want to do. And I'm going to go out and get my guy. But if Tavondre Sweat goes out there and ball out, and your guy come here and he's not what you thought he was, then people are going to be complaining.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the NFL Draft Combine and the Titans offseason. It's really going to get underway next week with the opening of free agency. I believe free agency opens next Wednesday in the NFL, March 11th. So looking forward to that as always. Coming up next, we heard Teron mention it. We wanted the hot goss. There was a rumor that came out late last week about what the Titans might do at number 4. And let's discuss it coming up next. 615-737-1025. And speaking of our Titans offseason coverage, it is presented to you by Tennessee Brewworks. Raise a glass with Tennessee Brewworks, proud partner and official craft beer of the Titans offseason coverage right here on 1025 The Game.
But I got a wild card for you. As great as all three of those would be fun for us in the world of fantasy, the rumor I heard last night, the Titans, that the Tennessee Titans think Jeremiah Love is the best player in the NFL draft. Now, again, that's a rumor. I'm not reporting it as news. I'm not a journalist. I'm just telling you, I think it's interesting. Could you imagine Jeremiah Love, a member of the new look Titans?
You must try to ignore that.
That was Matthew Berry, the fantasy guy, on the hot goss he heard at the NFL Combine. He said, I'm just telling you a rumor I heard. I'm not a reporter. Well, we just talked to a reporter, Teron Davenport, who knows the Titans in and out, and he also brought up Jeremiah Love unprompted. What does Love have to do with it? Well, could the Titans pick him at number 4 overall? And Derek, I mentioned it a little bit with Teron, but I do want to present to you the entire list of running backs who have been drafted with a top 5 pick since the year 2000. And it is a mixed bag.
Okay.
In reverse chronological order: Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, Trent Richardson, Darren McFadden, Reggie Bush, Cadillac Williams, Ronnie Brown, Cedric Benson, LaDainian Tomlinson, and Jamal Lewis. Those are the 11 running backs drafted with a top 5 overall pick since the year 2000. Here's a crazy number I saw as I was doing this research. 3 of the top 5 picks in the 2005 NFL draft were running backs: Ronnie Brown, Cedric Benson, and Cadillac Williams. You don't see that anymore. Now, if you extend it to top 10 draft picks, you get Ashton Genty, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Adrian Peterson. So, again, a mixed bag. A lot of really good to great running backs. A lot of busts in that list as well. And you've been aboard the Love train really since the beginning. I brought it up to you just sort of, hey, what would you think about the Titans drafting Jeremiah Love? And you've been all about Jeremiah Love. And I think people in the NFL fell deeper in love with Jeremiah Love because of his performance at the NFL Combine. He ran, a 4.36 40. That is faster than Jonathan Taylor. That is faster than Saquon Barkley. That is faster than Bijan Robinson. That is faster than Christian McCaffrey. So I don't think I need to ask you this question, but was your love of Love even more solidified after his performance at the Combine last week?
To me, it was. He embodies everything, that you meant that those 5 that you just gave, as far as him running the fastest time amongst those 4 or 5 backs.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor ran a 4.39. Saquon Barkley ran a 4.4. Bijan Robinson ran a 4.46. McCaffrey ran a 4.48. Love a 4.36.
And he embodies that eliteness that we talked about with all of those backs. And all of those backs have proven to be elite backs. It's hard to pass on a guy, especially the way this league is promoting offense and scoring points. That's why people come. I love seeing the defensive battle, and I'm sure there are times that people want to, but people didn't really like the Super Bowl because it was too much of a defensive battle. Defensive battles, people only like them during the playoffs when their team get in the Super Bowl, and then it's like we need to score some points, or you like it because your team won. But defense isn't what's putting butts in the stands. It's offense, scoring touchdowns. They want to see the quarterback get sacked. I get it. But scoring touchdowns, in what better way can you sort of put a spark plug in your offense by drafting a guy that's a 3-down? He's a 3-dimensional back. He does everything. And I think we didn't get the full scope of Jeremiah Love because he split time. And we didn't get the full scope of the other back because they both split times. There were times, I think against Stanford, one of those teams where he had rushed for damn near 200 yards in the first half, and he didn't even play the second half of the third or fourth quarter. Things like that had the coach said, I want Jeremiah Love to win the Heisman, Jeremiah Love would have rushed for 2,000 yards. and made it look easy.
Jeremiyah Love, 199 carries, 1,372 yards. That's an average of 6.9 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns. Jadarian Price, the other running back you're referencing, 113 carries, 674 yards, 11 touchdowns. To your point about them splitting time.
If he was the feature, if he was the guy, they said everything's running. He would have easily eclipsed 2,000 yards. He would have easily had close to 30 touchdowns, if not 30 touchdowns. We would have been talking about him as being the number one pick, or at least the second pick of the draft. But because they had this two-back system, they pulled him out of games. We didn't get the fullness of Jeremiyah Love. But this cat, if you're talking about Saquon and Christian McCaffrey and those, look at Bijan. Look at what they did for their team or do for their team. How they transformed their team. When Christian McCaffrey isn't on offense for they look totally different. When Bijan's out of the backfield, they look totally different. When those elite backs are not, those three-dimensional backs, when they're not on the field, their offense look vastly different. You have an opportunity to get one of those backs. I know there's pass rushers, but trust in your head coach who's a defensive guy. He's already told you, I don't need an elite guy. It's great to have him, but I don't need that because we all going to play as a unit. Trust that, and you get your quarterback somebody he can grow with for the next 10 years. Hopefully, barring injury.
That was going to be my next question to you, because the Titans have, trust us, the Titans have a lot of needs. Running back isn't high on that list. And we'll talk more this week about Reuben Bain and David Bailey and Sonny Styles and the other preeminent pass rushers who are available or could be available when the Titans make their first selection at number 4 overall. That is a pressing need. Running back seems more like a luxury than a necessity. But you believe that luxury can help transform Cam Ward.
If I'm going by past history, these backs that you've named, when we are talking about the current ones, if I'm to believe that he's anything like those or exceed those guys, and I got me a young quarterback, and I know that this league is geared on offense, high tempo, scoring points, having guys that can be multiple. Why wouldn't you draft a guy like that? I get it. He's not that number one need, but you can't put it. And I know I don't want to say the G word. He's a transformative player.
Good word.
That's who he is. He transforms everything around you. And you can even throw him back there on punt if you don't want to. You could throw him and Alec back there. I mean, DK.
DK, yeah.
He and DK. There's so many things you can do with this dude. You haven't seen the best of Jeremiyah Love.
Now, our friend Gover on our text line with an interesting question. He says, didn't we talk for weeks leading up to the playoff that Notre Dame hadn't played anybody? How much does the quality of a competition factor into Jeremiyah Love's stats?
When they did play individuals, he balled out.
I've got to pull up his game log.
And when you know someone, that's just like Ashton Genty. When you know somebody's getting the ball and you still can't stop them, there's something to that player.
I'm looking
and
at
he's always showed up. Like, he's one of those guys that has made every play you have asked him to make. Every play.
I'm looking at his game log against opponents that were ranked at the time of the game. In the opener against Miami, he had 10 carries for 33 yards. The following week against Texas A&M, he had 23 carries for 94 yards. Against Pitt late in the season, 23 carries, 147 yards. I forgot one. USC, 24 carries, 228 yards.
And he's one of those guys, again. I think he's a game changer. He's a transformative player. he allows you to do things with your offense that you just can't do right now. And again, I know people are screaming, no, we need a pass rusher, this and that and that and this. I get it. I understand it. But don't you think you need a A1 playmaker on the offensive side of the ball too? You know how much that helps the team? When you have a guy that teams ask teams who face Chris Johnson when he was here. Ask him how hard it was for them to game plan against him, because he wasn't just that. He was a 3-down back. Catch the ball. He could do everything. So from a defensive standpoint, now I got to really focus in on it. I got to know where he is everywhere. You know how much better that made the Titans, and then when he ended up going out, you know how much of that team was gone when he was out in that playoff game? We didn't have to worry about him no more. We didn't see them as that much of a threat now because their ace guy was gone. That's who Jeremiah Love is.
Gino on our text line says, listen, if the Titans don't trade down from number 4, I want the best playmaker available regardless of position. Love has less questions about his game compared to all 3 of the pass rushers. Dave says, don't we all talk about the Steve McNair, Eddie George era? Why not get a new dynamic duo? And of course, you have to be careful when comparing anything to Steve McNair and Eddie George, because that was the golden age of the Tennessee Titans, as Derek Mason knows full well. But I see Dave's point. You've got a second-year quarterback in Cam Ward. You would have a rookie running back in Jeremiah Love. I assume they're roughly the same age. They can grow together. I hear the argument. I'm not opposed to the Titans drafting Jeremiah Love, although history tells you that drafting a running back in the top 5 can be hit or miss.
Yeah, but it seems to be the last couple of years it's been more hit than miss.
If you're including top 10, if you increase it from top 5 to top 10, you add Bijan Robinson, you add Christian McCaffrey, you still have Saquon Barkley. So there are some really good to great elite running backs who were drafted high in the draft. Tom says, if we take Love number 4, I think we should spend some good money or draft a stud offensive lineman to also give him a little bit of help.
Yeah, I mean, you heard TD talk about a little bit about what he is hearing, bringing Zeitler back, extending the deal with Peter. They have to find a center. We know that. I'm not sure, how much they're looking to bring Levin back, but they need to go out and get someone. So you need a center if you're talking about potentially bringing back Zeitler.
Sonny says, what are your thoughts on most of the running backs taken in the top 5 no longer being on the team that drafted them? With the 4th pick, the goal should be to sign them to a second contract, not get rid of them after 4 to 5 years. Well, in the case of Saquon Barkley, if I recall correctly, the Giants prioritized signing Daniel Jones instead of Saquon Barkley, which did not work out well for the New York Giants. Christian McCaffrey was on a bad Carolina Panthers team that needed to rebuild. I don't think they were happy about getting rid of Christian McCaffrey, but it was what they thought would be best for the long-term future.
It's worked out for them. It's worked out for them. They found themselves in the playoffs.
And McCaffrey's been fabulous for the 49ers. So I get Sonny's point, but I do think each of these situations is different. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the Titans potentially drafting Jeremiah Love with the number 4 overall pick. Running backs do not get taken that high in recent history. As we just listed, a bit of a mixed bag, some good to great, some really, really, really bad. But Jeremiah Love showed out at the NFL Combine, a 4.36 40. Your thoughts on Love, 615-737-1025. We will wrap up our abbreviated show coming up next. But before we do, Right Time, HVAC, and Cromwell Media are teaming up to bring comfort back to your home. Is your heating system struggling or completely out of commission following the winter storms? Nominate yourself for the Right Time Home Rescue and tell us your story. Enter today at thegamenashville.com/HVAC, and you could win a new HVAC installed by Right Time HVAC. There's never a wrong time to call Right Time.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. If you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. But Law Tigers fights to get you the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet, replaced. So call 1-800 Law Tigers or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Houston, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. And don't forget, go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predator Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers and Music City Indian. Again, I've seen this thing. It's slick, and you will look good on it. So go to the website, predatorsbike.com. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Another abbreviated edition of DVD tomorrow, this time from 3 to 5, ahead of the Predators game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. A 6 p.m. puck drop. Of course, pregame begins at 5 p.m. right here on 1025 The Game. Willie Donick unable to join us today because he had to get to Columbus with the Predators after the game today, a 4-2 loss to the Detroit Red Wings. But Willie Donick expected to join us tomorrow on the program. One programming note: Predators GM Barry Trotz, who normally joins us on Tuesdays during hockey season, will not be joining us tomorrow. He will be joining us on Friday following the NHL trade deadline. So Barry Trotz's first public comments following the NHL trade deadline will be with us on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick on Friday afternoon. So no Barry Trotz tomorrow. He will join us on Friday afternoon following the NHL trade deadline. Let's get to your phone, 615-737-1025. Let's start with Dustin in Laverne. Dustin, thank you for calling and waiting. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. Hope you're having a good evening.
You as well.
So, until a couple of weeks ago, I was really leaning towards the defensive side in the draft here. And I'm not totally opposed to that at all because we do need help on the defense. But I was kind of thinking things through in my head. And if we could draft Love and then maybe sign, I think his name's like Tyler Lindenbaum from Baltimore, or even the next best center at that point, I kind of see you knocking two problems out at once there, because the best defense in my eyes is an offense that can run the ball. So if we can run the ball, we're going to be taking possessions away from the other team's offense, and we're going to be helping our defense out by getting them less reps on the field and more time to rest, things like that. So I just kind of wanted to weigh in on that and see what you guys thought. So
thank you, Dustin.
I mean, again, I've made my feelings known about what I think the Titans should do. I wouldn't be, I would be just as happy if they signed a defensive, end that can get to the passer and affect the game that way. But to me, if you want to help, if you want to know what you got in your quarterback, because ultimately that isn't that what this is about, your quarterback, and making sure or doing the things necessary around him to make sure that he can be as successful as possible and be your long-term fix. So you add individuals around him. Now, if you draft Jeremiah Love, then I would be looking to move Tajay Spears. It just for the mere fact is both of them are sort of the kind of the same back. And you probably would get maybe something a little bit more from him than you would Pollard.
The caller mentioned Tyler Linderbaum, the free agent center of the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens said that they are giving him, or hoping that he'll take, what's considered a quote-unquote market-setting offer. Pro Football Focus projects that Linderbaum, who was the third-ranked free agent on PFF's board behind Trey Hendrickson and George Pickens, PFF projects Linderbaum to receive a 4-year contract with a $20 million average per year. So that's $80 million total, $53 million guaranteed. I mean, the Titans,
I would give it to him. If you watched him enough, and this kid has been good from day one. If you've watched him enough, and I don't know what his injury history has been. I know he's been damn good, but I don't know his injury history. But if he's been available out there, then either you're looking to draft a guy later on, or you're looking to draft or you're looking to sign someone that can grow with a quarterback. Because again, Lindenbaum is a young guy. He's 26 years old.
He'll be 26 in April.
Yeah, so he's just turning 26.
He's played 4 seasons. He's missed 2 games in 4 seasons.
4 seasons. This guy is dependable and reliable.
17, 15, 17, 17. Those are
his
games
kid
played.
Is reliable, and he can grow with your quarterback. Again, let's think about investing 10 years. So you potentially got him for another 6 to 7. You got your quarterback. He's growing. You got you a nice running back in Jeremiah Love. Again, you don't need that A1 guy. Just get you guys that are solid, that are able to blend in and do the things that you asked them to do. It's been done before that way. I know you want an A1, number 1 elite wide receiver. Hell, I thought Calvin was going to be that guy. But I know what Calvin is. He's still a really good player that can benefit in his offense. But you need the whole to step up their game as well.
Merle and Mount Juliet says, Love will be better for the Titans than probably the last 5 or more first-round picks they have drafted. The linemen at 7 and 11, meaning J.C. Latham and Peter Skoronski, are not anywhere close to Pro Bowlers. I would make the argument that Peter Skoronski
he's closer to
he's a really good guard. It's just hard to convince people that you should invest that much in really good guards. But Love has the potential to be one, meaning a Pro Bowler. The edge rushers are not Will Anderson or Nick Bosa, so I like Love at 4. Let's go to Tim on our phone line. Tim, thank you for calling and waiting. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. Enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Last week, the rumor was kind of out there that they may be looking at Jeremiah, and then they made the trade with Sweat and got a former All-Pro rush in. And I thought, well, maybe it is. Now I'm kind of wondering if they're putting this out there as trade bait to get somebody to trade up that really wants him.
It's a good question. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. I mean, it could be. I mean, you can't, at this time of year, you can't trust them as far as you can throw them, because they're always, how much of what they're saying do you actually believe? And is there some truth into what they're saying? Because it could be a bunch of bull, but there could be some truth in what they're saying, but not the whole truth.
Yes, your BS detector must be on at
Exactly.
this time of the year. And to quote Homer Simpson, it takes two to lie, one to lie, and one to listen. We are at Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators lost 4-2 to Detroit earlier this afternoon. The Predators one win, one regulation loss, one overtime loss, 1-1-1, 3 out of 6 possible points since they returned to action following the Winter Olympics. And we will get more into the NHL trade deadline as the week progresses. But as I said at the top of the show, I implore Barry Trotz to do the right thing. And the right thing to do would be to, in no uncertain terms, wave the white flag. I know that the Predators are in the mix. There have been reports that Ryan O'Reilly doesn't want to go anywhere. Steven Stamkos refuted a report last week about potential destinations if he gets traded. He said to the Tennessean that he's had 0 conversations with Barry Trotz about a potential trade. But there are moves the Predators can make. And are they the kind of moves that can really turn this franchise around? Well, there is one. And we will talk about this more tomorrow. We talked about what the Titans should do with Jeffrey Simmons at the NFL trade deadline and what they could get for Jeffrey Simmons. And we expected it to be quite a bit. I think you can say the same for Ryan O'Reilly. And I know Barry Trotz is treating Ryan O'Reilly as if he has a no movement clause in his contract, but he doesn't. And anytime we've asked Barry Trotz about Ryan O'Reilly, he has said, I'm keeping my mind open. I'm listening to offers. I would be silly not to. And I trust him. But I just think that this team, their ceiling is squeaking into the playoffs and probably losing in the first round. The problem is that's what we've been seeing a lot from the Nashville Predators over the past several years. Need I remind you, it has been nearly 8 years since the Predators won a playoff series. And I don't know about all of you. For example, Joey from Bellevue on our text line says, I agree with you, Adam. However, certain other people are content with these results because it's fun. Do you know what brings excitement? Contending for the Stanley Cup. And I went to the game today. Great crowd for a 1 p.m. game on a Monday. It was not a holiday today. This game was broadcast live in Europe in prime time. That's why the game started so early here. But a great crowd. A lot of Michiganders, Derek Mason.
Yes.
A lot of red in the stands for the Red Wings, but great atmosphere for a 1 p.m. game on a Monday when all of y'all should have been at work. But your passion.
They were at work.
Yes, your passion brought you to Bridgestone Arena on Monday afternoon. Great crowd. And I know a lot of you want to go to games that are fun. You like the fact that the Predators are in a playoff race. I get all of that. I love the playoffs. I love playoff races. I loved covering playoff games. But I just see this team for what it is, which is a team that can squeak into the second wild card spot in the Western Conference, maybe win a game, possibly 2 against the top team in the Western Conference, whichever team that is, and that's it. And I want to see the Predators become competitive again, like actually competitive. And I think the first step to doing that is making the hard decisions by Friday's NHL trade deadline.
But you're not just giving people away.
No.
And
No.
what would it take to, again, you're comparing O'Reilly to Jeffrey Simmons, and that's a good comparison. But what would it take for you to move Ryan O'Reilly?
If a first-round pick is part of the deal, I do it.
I want first-round pick?
I want more than just a first-round pick. Well, the team that would be acquiring him is theoretically a contending team.
Exactly. So
which
you're going to get a low-round pick.
But first-round picks are still valuable. I know it's not the 8th pick, for example. It would probably be like the 27th pick. But a first-round pick is still valuable, whether you're making that pick or you're using it to acquire another player. So we'll get more into Ryan O'Reilly tomorrow, because I do have some thoughts on how the Predators should proceed with Ryan O'Reilly. But the Predators are back in action tomorrow night in Columbus against the Blue Jackets. Puck drop at 6, pregame at 5, right here on 102.5 The Game. Again, a reminder that Predators GM Barry Trotz will not join the program tomorrow. He will join the program on Friday. We will be his first interview following the NHL trade deadline. So we're looking forward to that. We will be back tomorrow at the normal time of 3 p.m. Trevor Maddich, ESPN, NFL, and college analyst, will join the program as he always does on Tuesday. Willie Donick should be along for the ride as well. I'm happy to be back. I've got to get home to my 10-day-old daughter. Who knows how many poopy diapers I'm going to have to change for the rest of the day. But, hey, that's fatherhood for you.
Poop on, brother. Poop on.
But that'll do it for us today. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Monday. I love you. The team love you. You hear that music? Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. See you tomorrow, 3 p.m. on 102.5 The Game. We have an abbreviated show, but you better be there listening to us. Peace.